Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome to another coffee time and another book tag. I have today for you the Library of Horrors.
It's coffee time.
So the amazing, beautiful Mary McWilliams tagged me on this a long time ago, and it has taken me forever to finally get to this tag, and I'm gonna leave her link down below as well as the original creator of the tag in case you want to check them out and check their answers for these questions. I thought it was great. I absolutely love the concept for this, so I decided to give you guys today my answers. If you love horror and before you leave, please consider subscribing, joining the coffee family, and also hit the notification bell. As always, I have tried to mix it up here to have at least a middle grade, at least a YA, and some adult books so that there is something hopefully for everybody in my answers. So let's start with the very first one. Dead doesn't mean gone. Choose a book with a ghost hunting. So for these, I'm going to recommend you guys a middle grade that I read earlier this year, and I really enjoyed, and that is The Hunting of Abilene Jones by Phil Hikes. So in this book, you're going to find a great atmosphere story that includes a legend, and it's also around the Halloween season, so it's going to be perfect if you need to pick up a short story for Halloween. So we follow Abilene, and she goes and travels to visit her aunt. And Evelyn is fascinated with ghost stories, and she finds the perfect ghost stories books in this bookshop, which, you know, is also going to please us book nerds. And she also finds a diary that used to belong to a girl that used to live on that place. But the rest I'm going to leave up to you to discover. I'll just tell you that I absolutely love how this was written, edited, put together, the legend, the atmosphere. It was really great for being a ghost middle grade story. Lullaby tell us about a horror book with a creepy child. So for this one, I'm actually going to recommend you a book about twins, and it is a book that I never really see mentioned in horror booktube, so I thought I would mention it here for you guys, and that is Breed by Chase Novak. I also own the sequel Brood, but I still have not read it, so I'll tell you a little bit about Breed. So this follows a couple that desperately want to have children. They've tried everything, they've spent so much money, and they still have not been able to get pregnant. And then they meet another couple that tell them that they were able to get pregnant due to some kind of not so standard procedure that it is done in Slovakia, and it's kind of a big secret. So they decide to travel there, and everything looked already a little bit sketchy. Let's be honest, that's what we're gonna expect from this story. And the woman does get pregnant, and she expects twins. The twins are born, everything seems fine, but then the children start to kind of act weird. And I just like this book so much because it was very different from everything else that I had read. However, it is a very slow burner, so it's not going to be for everybody. The writing style can also be a little bit dry for some people, but I just really enjoyed it because of the story and the kids. So that's all I'm gonna tell you, but if you're interested, maybe you would like to check it out. You Are Invited. Choose a book with a creepy cult, and for that I'm gonna recommend you guys here a YA book in case you're looking for the perfect Halloween / fall book, and that is The Last Harvest by Kim Liggett. And this is a story about a small town that has this society that is preparing everything for the last harvest. So we follow here our main character. He is a teenager, he just lost his dad, and he keeps having recurring nightmares, and he doesn't know what's really happening to him until he discovers this secret society, and he learns more and more about the last harvest. Even though there is a little bit of romance, a little bit of cheesiness, this was such a good story about a society / cult in a small village, so it is perfect for people that love those kind of tropes. The Devil's Advocate. Choose a book that has a morally gray protagonist, and for this I have chosen a book that actually has more than one morally gray characters, and that is The Other People by C.J. Tudor. This has been so far my favorite thriller by her, and in this story we follow a father that is not going to give up looking for his daughter, even though people are telling him that she is dead, she is gone, and he has to accept it and move on. So in his quest, he's going to find other people, and he is going to meet characters that are going to be kind of questionable. You're always going to be thinking who's saying the truth, who's lying, and it is a great mix of characters. It's also a book that deals with grief and loss, and how the people that are left behind after we lose somebody deal with that absence. So again, it's touching, you know, grief, which is something that I love to see in books explored. I really enjoyed this one, so if you have not picked it up yet but you love her other books, I encourage you to pick it up. It's you, it's me, it's us. Pick a horror book whose protagonist you can relate to. So for this, I had to think for a long time, because most of the times I read really extreme horror stories or spooky stories, hunting stories, and things that I cannot really connect with in a personal level. You know, I don't see myself reflected in those characters, if that makes sense. But then I remembered that this year I read a character that in some way it could be me. And that is Mina from Mina and the Undead by Amy McCaw. This is about a girl that is obsessed with horror in general and 90s pop culture, so that could be totally me. And also she goes to visit her sister Libby that lives in New Orleans, and they both start working in this kind of attraction that is a horror museum where people go in and get scared. And when I was a kid and I was at high school, we developed our own kind of tunnel of horrors. We made a room and we created traps and things to scare people, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me in high school. And I saw people going in and screaming in fear and getting out, and it just gave me so much pleasure to scare other people. And that is exactly what they do in this book, in this job that they have, and I can totally relate to Mina in a lot of things, so that's what I picked this one up. Till Death Do Us Part, a horror book with a romantic plot. Now, let's be honest, I do not read many horror books that really have any kind of healthy romance or healthy relationships in them, and I didn't know exactly which one to pick here, but I decided to go with a book that I read many years ago when I was a student at university, and I remember really enjoying the smut in the book. And I actually really want to revisit this one to see if it is still as good as I remember it, and that is The Mummy by Anne Rice. I feel like we all know her vampire stories, vampire books that also mostly have some romance, some kind of relationships going on, and I don't hear enough people talking about The Mummy, but I remember loving it so much. And all I remember is that Ramses the Great just basically wakes up again, I believe in London, and he meets this heiress and they have an interesting relationship, and I really want to revisit this one because, like I said, I think it had really hot steamy scenes that I was not expecting when I checked it out of the library. And honestly, I just was there for it. Pondering the Pages, a horror book that has stayed with you long after the last page. So for this, I have chosen one of those books that I just keep remembering over and over again about the plot, about the story, and I would really want to reread it because I read it also many years ago, but since then this story is one of those that I've always carried with me, and that is Needful Things by Stephen King. This book combines many things that I enjoy, and if there's something that we are going to see in this book is the power of manipulation, human behavior, and such a good exploration of humankind and character. This is a story in which, in a very small town, there is this new shop that a stranger opens, and the store is called Needful Things. Every single person from this village that goes by this store sees something or finds something inside that they've always wanted. It's as if the store knows their deepest desires. Of course, everything comes with a price. In this case, a really high price, and soon the people in this town, in this small village, are going to start behaving more and more violent. And honestly, I just had so much fun with this book. It had many things that I adored, and it's still, up to today, one of my favorite Stephen King stories. Nightmare Fuel, a horror book that left you deeply unsettled. So if I'm honest, there are not too many books that leave me with a bad taste or having nightmares, anything like that, but there are some that are just so gruesome and disturbing and nasty that while you're reading them, you're having all of these feelings. And there is a book that I read that made me fall in love with the author, and that is Endless Night by Richard Lehman. This book was so disturbing and messed up, and it has one of those topics that I really like to see in horror in general, maybe movies or books. That is home invasion. That is what happens at the very beginning of the book, but from there on, this book had many elements from other horror stories that I've enjoyed, including some things that even reminded me to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and not nice things. So this is such a roller coaster, and it is really dark and really gruesome, so I would only recommend you to pick this one up if you are at that level of horror and if you can take a lot. At the beginning of the story, as I mentioned, we are the witnesses of a home invasion. A couple of strange men break into a house, and there is two teenagers that manage to escape, and that is when the hunting for these two survivors start. That's all I'm going to tell you, but this was just fantastic. 10 out of 10, but so messed up, so unnerving. So just, know that when you go into it. Cover your eyes. A genuinely shocking horror book. And here I'm gonna pick one that I could have picked for many things actually in this tag, and that is Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. I know I'm mentioning this novella so much, but honestly, if I had to pick a book that recently has shocked me, it would be this one. This is a novella that I was 100% not ready for. It is what it seems, a simple story about two women that meet through a chat in the early 2000s, and how they exchange emails and stuff like that. It is so smart, it is so unpredictable, and it's just going to keep you really at the edge of your seat. I just could not put it down. I started this novella and I just needed to finish it, and I could not believe the things that I was reading and that were happening. It definitely gave me a slap on the face with that ending, and I'm never gonna forget this novella. I want to reread it all the time, and it is definitely one that has an amazing, stunning, shocking cover, and you're gonna find an amazing story inside. And last but not least is to pick a book that you would recommend to everyone. Now, recommending one single book to everyone is a really hard task, so I decided to pick here a collection of short horror stories, an anthology that just came out last year, and it's going to be perfect if you're looking for some spooky stories for fall or the Halloween season, and that is Local Hunts. And this is a book that it has been written by many members of our own booktube community, by our horror friends, and it is great to support the horror community, booktube in general, and also it has such an amazing wide variety of stories that there is something for everybody in this book. It has stories that go from 1700s legends to ghosts to clinics to forest. We also even have a Hellbound, so there's going to be something for everybody here, and you're also supporting the horror booktube community and smaller writers that need all of the support that you can get. And you are going to also be able to see stories written by people that maybe you've been following for a while, which is such an amazing, different type of experience when you're reading a book of maybe a horror booktuber that you've been watching for a couple of years. So definitely recommend you guys to pick it up. So this was the Library of Horrors tag, and thanks again a lot to Marie McWilliams for tagging me to do this one, because this one has been a lot of fun. I would like to know from you guys, which book would you recommend for everybody? That is such a hard question because we all have different types of things that we love, but what is a book that you say this could fit for a lot of different type of horror readers? Let's talk about it in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up before you leave, and I hope to see you all guys as always in our next coffee time. Bye.